Welcome to First Looks on a Tuesday. I'm your host Aadil, and I am playing Hermitage: Strange Case Files. Hermitage: Strange Case Files is a Lovecraftian Mr. Horror fantasy anime, according to Steam. It's by Arrowheads, and it's published by Geeky Games. We are provided the key. This gripping paranormal horror adventure revolves around Hermitage, the sinister bookstore that attracts most unusual customers, all of whom seem to be involved in mysterious cases bordering on the paranormal. Yeah. I came out last week on the 26th of October. So let us take a look. Alright. Always good when we get oh, jeez. Observe. Open. Main menu. So move. We can also move. Autoplay on and off. Okay. Back. Look. Logs next. Seems pretty simple. Skip conversation. Hide UI. This game is purely fictional. All events, characters, and items depicted in this game are fictional. Any similarity to any person or actual events is coincidental and unintended. Ugh. Whoa. I expected this to be, I guess, animated? Doesn't it look like it's like the middle of like a Winamp plugin? I've just dated myself. She keeps her eyes closed. She can't forget what happened because something still lingers in the air. Anger, maybe? No, it's not just anger. Maybe it's regret. A jumble of thoughts sweeps through her mind, and the icy air is burning her cheeks. Flying is more difficult than she thought. Looks like her soul didn't sprout wings after all. Somehow it's like she's still here. She feels relieved at the thought. And if I hit ZR? Whoa. Hiding the UI. Uh-oh, I can't get it back. What have I done? She feels relieved at the thought. Okay, so hide. ZR doesn't unhide, but A does. Weird. Sorry, I'm really thrown off because hiding UI usually doesn't... You wouldn't expect it to cut the sound completely. Which is very off-putting in this, like, surreal Winamp. Anyway, let's continue. Sorry, that just really threw me off. Thus the game begins. Ooh, vibrates. Pardon me. The world goes on and the clock is ticking steadily. The world doesn't owe anything to anyone, so it won't listen to anyone's requests. Even praying won't turn bad things into good things all of a sudden. Therefore, those who expect a lot from the world should overthink their attitude. There's no joy, no sorrow, just emptiness. Ooh. So, did she kill herself because her soul didn't grow wings? Question mark. Ooh, this is quite the start. The world feels heavy on her shoulders. Chapter 1, Day at the Cinnabar. Long story short, we'll focus all our energy on the preparations for this project. Although it will take place next semester, every day we slack off now means that the other art clubs have one more day to catch up to us. Keep in mind that our elite art club has a reputation to uphold. It is essential that we are victorious in the future. I know it's unusual for me to push you guys so hard, and I realize some of you might be uncomfortable with that. Oh, toxic school. Think it over carefully for your own good. I don't want any more incidents this year. This really did start dark. That's all. Any questions? I mean, I'm assuming, Mentor, you're a classmate of the fallen one? Oh, no, Club MP. What about the materials? If we're going to do oil paintings, the paint will be very expensive. That won't be a problem. Your new classmate doesn't have any materials yet, does she? I'll prepare some for her. I saw her with some art supplies today. That's right, let her use her own supplies. And get highs on their own supplies. So there's no need to worry about it, is there? Guys, well, you can figure out a suitable solution amongst yourselves. That's all for today. Sorry, just give me a second. Just gonna turn my phone off. Alright. The girl has a problem. She suffers from nightmares, even during the day. Well, I guess she suffers from narcolepsy, and also has nightmares. Womp womp. Everywhere, even when it comes to such a renowned, flashy school, the shadows are still everywhere, lingering. They are relentless. It took her a whole week to figure out where to hand in her homework. Nobody even considered offering her help. Teachers always seem to be in a hurry after class, avoiding eye contact with anyone. It is far from what she imagined. Something must be wrong with her. At least that's what she always tells herself. That's why she came here in the first place. Her family moves around a lot, and she can never depend on her friends. The only thing she can depend on is her hobby. She doesn't like to talk, and as long as she doesn't have to, everything's fine. At least this school has an art club. If she didn't need word, wow, I'm not in a reading stream of mind. Frame. At least this school has an art club. If she doesn't need words to go about her hobbies, presumably she wouldn't need words to make friends. That's what she thought. However, her expectations weren't met. Club member 8. Still wearing that piece? Just give up already. The girl's smile is mean, a prideful grimace to draw attention and show off to everyone around her. The painting's a little different from what she was imagining, but she's dealing with the past, bit by bit after all. Paint is still wet, but once it's dry, she'll pay more attention to the details. Come on, just leave it. You can't participate in the next event because you haven't done your part, understand? Doesn't really matter anyway. The work should be more precise. You should have left room for another line right here. Oh, leave her alone anyway. She's gonna fall flat on her face anyway, thinking she could play in the big leagues. I find it really distracting because, like, the last 3 of those panels sounded like things spoken out loud, but these ones are, again, narration, and I thought it was, if it says club member A, it's club member A, if it says club member B, but some of those were, like, spoken out loud, but according to the UI, that's not, right? It's internal monologue, and even then, she doesn't have an internal monologue. Mostly, it's third person, like, narrator. Anyway. Those mean words cut deep like a knife, and sadly it's a daily occurrence. Club member 8. I wish she'd be more self-aware and know what her place is. It's so annoying to have a newbie around. Come on, just let her sit here and rot. Just like a mushroom, haha. Bye, remember what you're supposed to do. They switch off the lights as they leave, forgetting the fact that there's still someone in the room. Since there's only one window, the lighting in the art studio isn't exactly optimal. She doesn't feel like doing anything about it right now. Obviously, the fact that they forgot that she was in the room wasn't an accident. Gradually, everyone leaves the building and everything goes silent. Maybe mushrooms grow in silence, in isolation. She would prefer to be a mushroom right now. All these people aren't outright cruel to a mushroom. At most, they would casually crush it with one foot. That outcome doesn't seem so bad. What an odd thought to cross her mind. In novels, students are confronted with events like this over and over again. The readers might laugh at the repetitiveness of the author's writing. However, not many people would continue laughing once events like that turn into a cruel reality for themselves. Oh, aha! I forgot I can slightly look around. Only once did she manage to muster up the courage to speak out against the people ganging up on her, but it made no difference. She put up a wall around herself for her own protection, her very own glass prison, protecting her from the cruel outside world. The whole world is against her. At least that's how she feels. In a novel, there'd be two potential scenarios for her: coming out of her shell and breaking the silence, or slowly but surely drowning in it. She obviously doesn't have the right kind of personality for the former. The broom and the dustpan are gone. She isn't surprised at the prank, just quietly closes the cabinet. The classroom is more cluttered than ever, and crumpled up paper everywhere seems to be the trap that has been laid out for her today. She slowly picks up a piece of paper. Eventually, they'll run out of ideas. Even if this young girl tries to deal with her emotions, the malice of the past doesn't look like it'll disappear in the future. Even if she struggles to deal with her grief, the pain is relentless, taking up 24 hours of every day. Even so, she doesn't give up. These guys are really... Should I turn on the lights? The shadows disappear and the room grows warm again. I figured you'd still be here. Let's go back together. The world goes on, and the clock keeps ticking. The world doesn't know anything to anyone, so it won't listen to anyone's requests. Even praying won't turn bad things into good all of a sudden. Therefore, those who expect a lot from the world should overthink their attitude. Overthink? Rethink? Maybe that's why the moth is drawn to the flame. I don't know what just happened. That one goes here, and this one, okay, done. Doesn't really fit. Many people simply grab books, flip through them, and put them back. Of course, they don't check where the book originally was. This means everything's an unorganized mess, with different genres and classifications thrown into one big, messy pile. Making sure everything is put back in its original place is probably more difficult than just placing it in the first free space you see. Alright, time for a break. There's no sense in asking too much of yourself. To be honest, I don't have a lot of confidence as the store manager, even though I've been doing this for the last 6 months. I had my doubts at first, but whatever. Gotta earn money somehow. On the words out for my blood. Hermitage. Hermitage? Hermitage. Hermitage. Isn't just an ordinary shop. Customers aren't looking for something to satisfy their desired rate. Most of them won't find what they're looking for here. The literature here, from the folklore of Japanese scholars in China to propaganda transcripts of new religious groups in Southeast Asia, has piled into such a vast ocean of books that even the owner has lost his overview. There's lots of really obscure reading material here, and the only reason why people stay here must either be the familiar smell of old books, or that they're looking for some very specific research material. It's always an interesting conversation to be had, though. Holy. But it doesn't seem like there are any new customers around today. I know it's a reading ebook, but there's a lot of table setting. We're still not sure what the plot is. Well, I guess it's only been about 10 minutes, right? After all, the storefront doesn't look welcoming to strangers. The few regulars who come here are either very quiet or have chatted way too much over the past few weeks to the point that you don't have anything left to say. Skinny customer. The girl's hand rests on the edge of a bookshelf, and she's silently moving her lips while browsing through the books. Over the last few months, she's become a regular visitor. I like her. Quietness isn't a bad thing in itself, and she's always been polite and not at all annoying. What's more, she once bought Voyagers to the Western Pacific in this shop, which instantly earned her some bonus points. I should try talking to her more often. I'm sure there's some good conversations to be had. I just need to finish my chores. Chores. What an odd turn of phrase for duties of job. Conversations. Now isn't the time for a break. What am I... If I'm having trouble with something, cleaning my desk always clears my mind. I'm looking for information, I can always check out the bookcase. There aren't any noteworthy books. Something else to do. I sometimes hoard and organize the shelves. There's still customers in the store, so I should do my job as a manager first. A customer seems to have something to say. Okay, we've hit the first thing. Oh, there we go. Why can't I go to bookshelf? Alright. Case files, conversations, thoughts. That's all I can seem to cycle through. I think many of my brain cells are killed by the smoke. My young girl seems to have something in mind today. I'll try talking to her. Alright. Sorry, I skipped that because I knew it was... The game wants me to hit conversations. Skinny customer. It's really weird that the young girl is called Skinny Customer. I'm just gonna put that out there right now. That's an odd thing. Only now do I notice how young she must be. Her uniform, consisting of a sailor suit and a long skirt, is quite well known in this city. If I remember correctly, this uniform is worn at a well-known privet school. It's called Phoenix High School. I heard that they only accept female students and it's one of the highest rated schools. What a feat. His name sounds appropriately strong, if deadly. She wears big glasses that cover a huge part of her face and is clutching a book under one arm. She holds it very carefully. Almost looks like she's carrying a small animal she's trying not to hurt. Glasses aren't that big. Judgy. So what do you want to buy today? Sorry, I'm just making sure. This time it's the Trail of the Missing Fish. Her reading interests are a little weird. She's been coming here more often lately and slowly become regular. The store isn't really that well known, so she must have heard about it somewhere. I flipped through the Trail of the Missing Fish before. The book is by no means interesting to read. It's more like an academic documentary. But something about ancient rituals by making sacrifices to a sea god. I have my doubts about its authenticity. The village itself has been abandoned for a long time. Its remains were almost entirely destroyed. The author cites a large number of folklore accounts to corroborate the details, but it's all mere speculation. Entire book full of ancient texts. While the content sure is interesting, the quality of the writing itself is lackluster. Why would a student be interested in the remains of a settlement whose name has long since been forgotten? Sure, this shop sometimes gets a volume containing a rare piece of history that's significant, but this mysterious village, according to the author's nebulous sources, was a place where strange rituals were a common thing. It's actually quite scary to read, and that's not even the most troublesome thing. And it's not that simple, I'm afraid. Huh? I can sense her confusion. May I ask why you want this book? Why? I'm just curious. I can't deny it, these things are very interesting to me, too. There's more to this world than we know. The girl seems somewhat confused. Her blank eyes wander around the room. Can I please have it? I really need it. It's just, there are certain rules and guidelines I must follow. I'm sure you understand. The way the girl responds is somewhat unusual. Even though it's a strange book, she shouldn't be this embarrassed. Maybe she's really introverted? I don't know if the reason could be such a simple one. But Yeah? Sure, it's okay, or maybe... Everything alright? I don't need this book anymore. I'm sorry. I'll help you put it back. The girl takes the book from my hands and turns towards the bookcase. It's all very abrupt. And the way she moves is extremely clumsy. It's easy to see how nervous she is and that she didn't even think things through. Ah! Oh. Bookcase number 3, that's Freud, if I'm not mistaken. It's silent all of a sudden. Freud. Bit on the nose there. She's just lying there on the ground underneath the mountain of books. I can't even find the right words to describe the situation. All I can do is silently walk towards her and the literary battlefield. Sorry, I'm so sorry. It's... My curiosity from a few minutes ago has been fully satisfied. Now she's acting like a woodpecker, keeping her head down and bowing repeatedly in apology. She looks like she's on the verge of tears. Come on, help me clean up. We need to get some sense of order back. If the actual owner saw this, I'd be kicked out in an instant. Of course, really, I'm so sorry. Girl follows me and helps me pick up books scattered all over the floor. Every time she picks up a book, she opens it and rifles through the pages carefully. After making sure the pages aren't damaged, she carefully blows away the dust before handing the book back to me. Her hands are trembling and she's obviously scared and nervous. Doing this in silence is only going to make the atmosphere even more awkward. Time to find something to talk about that lightens the mood a bit. Your name's Cecile, right? Look, your student ID card. You must have dropped it when you fell. Oh, when did that happen? Relax, you're a regular here. I'm not angry because of a small accident, alright? Don't worry about it, really. Let's get back to topic. The book you want is a good one, sure. It's also very rare and valuable. I can't see why someone your age would need it so badly. Can't just sell a precious book to someone so young, someone who still shows a lack of control. You know what I mean? The emphasis being on can't sell. If you convince me, I might consider lending it to you. I'll lend it to you, and you'll bring it back once you finish, but don't go telling people about it. I don't usually make exceptions. I don't want to have to lie to people and pass it off as a mistake should anyone find out I made an exception. This copy of The Trail of the Missing Fish is a folktale, and given that even this issue is at least 20 years old, I doubt the author was ever officially published during his time. As mentioned before, the book's content and writing style are rather obscure, and it takes a lot of time to fully grasp its meaning. It might be disappointing if you expect to find an exact piece of information that you're looking for, but online search engines have come a long way. Our ability to search for information and find it quickly has long exceeded everything we used to think was possible. Cecile could be looking for something very specific, something so peculiar that it might only be found in this particular book. Such a young girl suddenly developing an interest in ancient religious practices for no apparent reason. What a strange world we live in. Cecile hesitates for a moment, maybe because she feels guilty. Sir, would you believe me if I told you something? It really depends on what you're gonna say. Just know that you don't have to tell me anything you don't want to, but if there's anything you need to get off your chest, I'm happy to listen. You can fully understand why you don't want to talk to your classmates, and some things need to be talked about, or they'll eat you up from the inside. Bullseye. Her pale fingers clench the book tightly. Recently, I've been having some very strange dreams. Oh? Most of them are horrifying, so I'm really scared. I dreamed of a gigantic fire rising from the sea, engulfing an entire island. Many small animals lived on that island, but they all disappeared in the blink of an eye, swallowed by the flames. There was no trace of them left after that. In another dream, I saw men dressed in ancient armor. They were fighting. They held swords and spears and stood together in huge groups. A large squadron of cavalry rushed towards them from the hillside. There's blood everywhere. The men worked on horseback were shouting and screaming. I couldn't understand the strange dialect, but they were speaking Chinese? I also dreamed of a huge plaza surrounded by buildings. Foreigners wearing hexagonal star badges stood together in a dozen lines and were escorted to trucks by soldiers. Hexagonal star badges escorted to trucks. Oof, that's a unexpected... unexpected Holocaust reference in video game. There were mothers in tears holding onto their babies. The soldiers showed no emotion, so they knocked the cowering woman to the ground with their rifles and then took the screaming babies. Before I started having these nightmares, I'd only seen scenarios like that in book illustrations or on TV. But I also saw many things I'd never seen or heard about before. These aren't ordinary dreams, and I can't seem to forget about them. I remember them all vividly. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at describing how I feel. Did it all seem way too real? Cecile nods. They don't seem like normal dreams. Why would I have visions of such things when I don't even have that good of an imagination? I try to write it all down. If there were realistic details that I couldn't actually know about, that would be all the proof I need. I see. So this time you had a dream about traditional native festivals, you wrote down what they were doing in your dream, and now you're looking for information that might give you some clues? To be honest, old literature as specific as this is both hard to find and hard to understand. Even harder without having some prior knowledge about it. There was a group of natives dressed in rags dancing around an 8-legged fish made of straw. They spilled yellow wine on the straw heap and smeared blood on a child's lips. They were chanting a strange song that I didn't understand. I had no idea what they were singing at first because I'm not very familiar with that Cantonese dialect. Things became much clearer when I found out about the book. Cecile concludes her train of thought with a slight sigh. Nearly all of the customers have come to Hermitage to buy books of a story. To be honest, this situation is a little more complicated. The human brain has many different ways of painting pictures in our minds, dreaming being the most common one. However, for most dreams, there's a logical explanation. Once we drift into supernatural territory, that's when people get scared, but that's not the most pressing issue right now. I can't help but look back at her. Cecile is afraid of making eye contact, but she managed to raise her head to convey how sincere she is with her eyes. She isn't being completely sincere, though. A half-truth is still a lie. I don't know if she realizes that. I'm not angry. I can't blame her. In the face of uncertainty, she doesn't know who to trust and is extremely confused. Every situation is unique, for better or worse. I've accumulated some experience dealing with strange situations like this one. Going on like this will only lead to us running in circles. I need to find the right words, something a girl in her position can relate to. Now's the time to choose. Hey, gameplay! Alright. Alright, do we want to be straightforward? Beat around the bush? Bluff? I don't think bluff. She's nervous. What are we thinking here? I think... I'm not a big fan of bluffing or intimidating. Although if she's nervous, she might just blanch and say it. But I think hinting you know is a good idea, or just straight up being like, what else? Oh, great. What are we thinking? I don't think I need to be like, just because she's, so let's just be straightforward. I put down my pen, take a deep breath, and firmly look into Cecile's eyes. I think you haven't told me everything you know. The girl's eyes widen as I call her out. I'm looking for information because you had some strange dreams. A nice idea, but only someone who went through the trouble of making up a story would explain it like that. But I didn't. Humans rely on subjective motivation. If a thing has no value, no one will grant it much attention, let alone devote so much effort to studying it. I can tell you're a smart girl, but believe me, interest is a bad excuse. You can stick with that approach, but it's not gonna work. I approach Cecile and look into her eyes. There's a lot of history hidden away here. Fate brought you to here. Hermitage. It's a special place. I hope you understand that. Cecile seems to be holding her breath. The girl holds tightly onto the book, her fingers caressing the corners. Sign of how many thoughts are going through her head right now. Time feels as if it's moving slowly. I don't know how long we were standing there, but after a while Cecile's eyes finally drift away from mine. Sir, you are really not an ordinary person. Thanks? I don't shy far away from a compliment if I get one, that's for sure. Cecile ignores my playful remark. She carefully puts the book back on the shelf, then turns to me with a serious expression on her face. It wasn't my original plan, but sooner or later I probably would have come here to ask you for advice anyway. I'm sorry for causing you so much trouble. I'm really embarrassed. Seems like you really don't know anything. All I can do is scratch my head. Playing dumb doesn't seem to be working very well. I want to believe that there are still people willing to help others out there, so it's nice to see they exist. Still. You're an interesting person, surrounded by so much knowledge from all kinds of different sources. Most people would never believe me if I told them what I told you. I can take a rough guess at your situation. You can tell me your story. I'd like to hear the truth. Corners of Cecile's mouth turned upwards into a slightly bitter smile. It was a harsh truth, though. I really didn't lie. Those images are still in my head. But it's just like you said. There are other reasons why I'm paying such close attention to them. Cecile's tone of voice changes as she looks at me, but her eyes aren't focusing on me. I saw my best friend in my dreams. She's like a sister to me. Huh? She was lying on the ground, twitching, her face pale as snow. The ground beneath her head was covered in red, blood still pouring out of her. I couldn't see her eyes. Her right hand was completely mauled. She was trying to move. There was blood. So much blood. And I... The girl is getting more and more immersed in her vivid memories. She stares at me with blank eyes. I can see a figure reflected in her eyes, but it's not me. Cecile covers her face with one hand. She looks panicked. She uses the other hand to point at the ground as if something were lying there. She kept trying to lift her head, but her neck was twisted too badly. She didn't react at all. I held her hand. Cecile enters a kind of trance as she becomes fully immersed in the memory. Her facial expression changes to one of utmost dread, and her mouth starts moving strangely on its own. Words spill out of her mouth. She can't control it. She's staring. The stare. The eyes. Wait, eyes? Didn't she say she couldn't see them at first? Blood. Her neck. Those eyes. The eyes. Eyes looking at me. They're looking at me. Staring at me. Looking at me. Gazing at me. Those eyes. I clap my hands loudly in front of her face. Ah! She sits there with her arms wrapped around herself, shaking, frightened. What should I do? I gently put my hand on her shoulder. Calm down. Calm down. So basically, this vision's made you worry. Worry about your friend's well-being? She nods. I can't bear the thought of her like that. It's so horrible. I'm really scared. The more I remember, the more I... Cecile leans against the edge of the bookshelf, her arms around her knees. So you decided to look for more information on visions and hallucinations. You're trying to gain further knowledge about them, trying to figure out how much of what your experience is connected to reality. No response this time, but the answer is clear. This is starting to get something troublesome. Oh. Weird. Sorry, my OBS was just acting up. Will you help me? Thanks for the 13-month sub. Cecile looks up, a worried expression on her face. Her eyes are slightly red and swollen from holding back her tears. She looks so troubled, I can't leave her alone with this burden. So your interest was in fact genuine. That book, I thought maybe Okay, take it easy. I won't leave you on your own. I really like this, like, mild moving of the camera. It's just such an odd extra control. Sorry, I'm distracting myself. However, if you really want me to help you, I need more information, some more details to work with. Who exactly is this friend who's like a sister to you? What's your relationship with her? Can you pinpoint where and when the vision takes place? More importantly, what exactly are these hallucinations? I know the situation's serious, but I still need to grasp the basic concept of it all, or I won't be able to help you. You're right. I'll tell you. Actually, I often get bullied at school. I don't have any friends there, and they often pick on me in groups. They all think I don't deserve to be going to the same school as them. They want to force me to leave. They don't talk to me. They steal my books or pour water in my desk drawer. They always try to make me angry or trip me whenever I walk by. The only person who ever stood up for me and told them to stop was her. Her name is Eloise! She's the president of the school's art club. Without her, I probably would have given up already. When did you two meet? Around the middle of September this year? Interesting. From what you told me so far, I would have thought you'd known each other for years. I wish that was the case, but I only transferred to Phoenix High School this semester. I had high hopes that the people would be nicer, but there's a sense of community. But it's even worse than it was before. She uses eyes and looks back as if she's holding back a frustrated laugh. Sounds tough. Is this art club somehow related to what you've been dreaming of? The floor of my visions were very much like the one in the club building, and Eloise often gets into arguments with the others because of me. Are there many conflicts within the art club? The situation between her and the others is very tense, even though she's the student representative. Don't the teachers have anything to say about that? I mean, things like that could really reflect negatively on them too. Truth be told, the teachers are more worried about the art competition. Preparation for that have their full attention. Bloody art competition. What now? It's an art competition called Yukai Cup. It's prestigious and the level of challenge is very high. It's serious business. I don't really know much about these kinds of things. What can you win? Prize money? No, nothing like that. Honestly, for me, it's not even that big of a deal, but I've only been around a few months. Many of the others, multiple years. Their pride is on the line when it comes to facing off against students from other schools. Every February, the Yukai Cup is the only thing anybody talks about at Phoenix High School. We always score well at the competition. Sounds very persistent, if you ask me. They work so hard to prepare it, they're all stressed out. The atmosphere becomes unbearable, and the art club turns into an emotional powder keg. So it's a regular occurrence? Just like me, Eloise doesn't have much of a presence outside the art club. Considering her calm personality, it's hard to imagine her taking the initiative and start a fight with anyone else. And it makes your visions even more strange. There's no plausible explanation for them. I'd like to just write them off as simple nightmares, I really would, but I'm convinced there's more to it. Yeah, I understand that now. It really makes me wonder. Like I said before, I see a lot of things in these dreams, although I don't think see is the right word to describe it. I can see, hear, and touch everything. It's as if I don't even exist, and I'm actually part of it all. That doesn't really add up to what you said before. Could you explain it again? How do you mean? I'm not very good at explaining it. Don't worry. Just tell me about how you felt when it first happened. What was the first thing that went through your mind? Cecile thinks it over and opens her mouth to say something, but then shuts it again. She stays silent for almost a full minute. Well, I think I was flying? Flying? So it feels as if you're flying through the air? No, it feels like flying, but I don't have any sense of self. I can observe everything from above, but my perspective certainly isn't from heaven. The only reason I say it that way is so I can describe it somehow. Last time, I saw the city's famous riverside viewing platform. A group of panicked people came running from the north, right towards the people at the viewing platform. Luckily, security guards were nearby to handle the situation and prevent a mass panic. People were shaken up and looked like they'd seen a ghost. They looked really frightened all the same. They were such a small group that they were lost in the gigantic crowd of people. Hardly anyone noticed the uproar, and the other side of the viewing platform, everybody simply carried on as usual. It's really scary how you can feel isolated, unsafe, even when you're out in public and surrounded by so many people. Afterwards, I went to take a look at the place on my own. The surrounding streets and buildings were all familiar to me. They were just like it in the dream. Even the street signs were the same. It's hard to imagine that without having seen it for yourself. I've seen bizarre scenarios play out in my mind before, but until the visions of my friend, I never thought about actively researching what I'd seen. I often lose track of time when I have these visions. I have no sense of self, no Cecile, just one big blur of everything. Cecile describes the situation as if it were a good thing. I'm surprised she isn't smiling with how happy she sounds. However, as soon as my focus shifts, I quickly lose that state of mind. Same as with the real dream. By the time I start to question whether or not I'm myself, I'm already in a more conscious state, and it's only a matter of time before I return to reality. Well, at least you return to your senses at some point. A dream that can even put that fact in question is even more bizarre. Even if I wanted help from someone, I'd have a hard time explaining it to them. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. I'm very grateful. She bows her head and already sounds less dense. Talking is really important. I've never been very sociable. Too awkward, I guess, but I see where you're coming from. Anyway, I just want to understand what I see. After all, if my friend is really in danger, I need to find a way to help her. Do you think I'm naive for wanting to find out whether my dreams are real or not? Of course not. In fact, your being so calm right now is remarkable. Let's take a small break. Do you want another cup of coffee? Whew. Well, Cecile leaves Hermitage before the sun goes down. The hand she was holding the hot coffee with was ice cold, which I find difficult to comprehend. After Cecile's departure, the bookstore falls back into its usual silence. Only the books that are askew on the shelves show any indication that something happened there, but to be honest, it's probably more organized than it was before. Still, there's a lot of work to be done. I should analyze the information I have so far. It completely depends on how much Cecile is willing to tell me. We agree to discuss it further tomorrow, but if she chooses to give up, there's nothing more I can do. Instead of worrying about that right now, I should focus my mind on the matter at hand. Stay calm and collected, take plenty of notes. That's what experience has taught me over the years. Even strange events that cannot be explained through common sense often follow some kind of logic. As long as there's sufficient information, I can draw conclusions. As more conclusions are drawn, analysis of the events can be constructed. Something like to call the principle of reasoning. Yet you like to call. And the... Sorry, I'm a logician. Yes, a principle of reasoning. I like the idea. He's like, this is the way it works. And I'm the one. Me, I figured it out. Not from these books. These things I see look so real I can nearly reach out and touch them. Normally my imagination isn't as vivid. That's why I started memorizing the things I saw. How else would I ever be able to prove they're real events? Presumed? Reasoning. I write down a question. Although our idea sounds somewhat naive, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. The problem is how to prove it. Even if Sophia finds matches between the dream and reality, there's no actual solid proof. People often get a sense of deja vu, and this experience, known as the sense of being present, has its own plausible explanation as science. In times of emotional instability, the frequency of deja vu experiences is increased. That might not be all, and it's too simple an explanation, but when under stress, it's easy for the brain to mess up one of its delicate processes. The viewing platform Cecile mentioned is a pretty well-known sightseeing spot, so even if the architecture there gives her a sense of familiarity because of her vision, that's still no real verification. Best memories can often interfere subconsciously with the conclusion. To answer this question, I can't rely solely on Cecile's one-sided information. The assumption that she didn't have any relevant knowledge beforehand can only be confirmed by a third party. I should take notes on what else she said she saw. The ancient battlefield gatherings at the square. These scenes are bizarre enough, and there seems to be no explanation for them. That big fire she mentioned worries me as well. Considering the difficulty of the investigation, I only have a limited number of options left. Those things happening at Phoenix High School. Riots at the Riverside viewing platform. That's all the information I can confirm so far. It's puzzling either way, but at least I can try. There are more down-to-earth approaches to understanding what's happening in the cities. If possible, I want to avoid involving any innocent bystanders. He says out loud after thinking to himself, real weird. When I was conducting research on folklore in the remote countryside, I heard a lot about supernatural dreams, but there's a world of difference between an innocent high school student and witches. It's obvious that Cecile has already convinced herself of an answer to all this, but actually trying to prove it is something much more difficult altogether. The sky outside had already turned completely dark and I didn't even notice. The lighting inside Hermitage isn't optimal, but it's better than nothing. I turn off the dim lights on the ground floor, which hold more symbolic than actual value. Unlock the shop door and make my way to the apartment. Alright. So, I still... Well, let's look at case files. 10/16? Is that October? In her dreams, Cecile saw a wonderful scene. A button... What? I don't really understand what this is. Switch to clues. Delusion of nothing to do. Yep. Okay, thoughts. Trying to figure out how this game works. There's no one around. I finally have some time to think. What a weird dream. She would have had no reason to lie to me if she was just borrowing a book. Normal people don't believe in dreaming about the past, much less that it could actually be proven. As I just explained to Cecile, it wouldn't make sense to lie like she did, so what she had said had to be true. Does it, Mr. Manager? However, it's no surprise that she's worried about a dream in which a schoolmate is in trouble. The situation is pretty unclear. I should find out more about what she's heard and seen. So what? She's actually dead? And she was? Someone's dead. Either her already, right? Either her or the class president. Well, that's all I can do, right? Oh, I can also look around. I can't get to the bookshelf. I don't know why. But interesting. Anyone in Twitch chat have an idea? I'll finish work. Hermitage's interior architecture isn't exactly convenient. To get from the storefront to the living room, you need to circle around the outside of the building and walk up the first floor. Maybe continue further up and reach the warehouse on the second floor. That doesn't concern me. My daily walks between these 2 points are strenuous. It's my substitute for daily exercise. The apartment's far from neat, but I'm not the kind of person who can live in a place where every quilt is folded into a perfect square. I took my shoes off at the entrance to let myself fall headfirst on the comfortable, soft sofa. I've been really lazy the last couple of months, loving the comfy, secluded lifestyle. Nothing's gonna change if I myself don't. I really need to get back into my groove and find some form of daily routine. Unfortunately, I don't get paid for doing overtime. I can start by taking notes throughout the day. Maybe it'll help me collecting my thoughts and get me back on track. Every event has its own origin, cause, and effect. That terrible scene that Cecile saw is undoubtedly related to the school. Need to investigate further on this basis. The computer is quite old, so you can't do anything with it except the internet. Some topics can start a lot of rumors and need to be watched. TV is an old model with a curved screen. A lot of information is hidden, no clues. Can't rest now, there's no time to waste. I promise to help, so I have to take this seriously. Let's see if there's anything new. I have to stay in this building right by the bookstore for various reasons. There are good and bad sides to it. One good thing is that I'm always surrounded by information, readily accessible in the form of books. And yeah, I know it's the 21st century, where you probably even have good reception on the top of Mount Everest. As I turn on the computer, the familiar yellow light of the forums interface appears in front of me. The users here voice their opinions very openly in order to reflect their wide-ranging knowledge or simply to have some fun. It's giving the administrator one hell of a headache, but I like to sit back and enjoy it. Having said that, the forum has its own problems. There's a maintenance every 5 minutes. Oh god. The layout is a mess. The moderators quarrel all the time. It's hard to count all the issues. Being so polarized in terms of user experience and content value is a spectacle in every sense. There's always something new and unexpected going on, and the community stays active. Let's see what I can dig up here today. Urban Legends. Browsing, I can return to the list of posts here. Feels like I've gathered all the... I can close the page here. Since I'm gathering intelligence, I should read all of today's posts. Okay. There's a huge spider in the house. It's so gross. I'm not going to read all of these out loud, I don't think, unless I think it's important. Sounds like a white mustache jumping spider. It eats cockroaches. It has creepy eyes. Spiders are cute. It's the most popular pet in China after the cat. Okay. So, can I... Well, I guess we go back. Ah, there we go. Oh, this fake mouse is pretty brutal. It's literally just hitting up on the D-pad or the stick. Alright, gene scissors. According to UC Riverside, scientists called gene scissors create mosquitoes, 3 eyes, malformed rings. %100% increase in the genetic probability of the target gene. Three-eyed. Yeah, I agree. Random. 14-year-old Russian model dies suddenly. Autopsy indicated poisoning. Murder case. It has nothing to do with the current situation, but I should keep an eye on it nonetheless. Aha! Because it's not Hermitage case file, folks. It's Hermitage case files. Alright, let's read this. According to an article in The Sun from the 15th, 14-year-old Russian model Vlada Zyaba died suddenly in Sindhu last month. Initially, that was thought to be due to fatigue, meningitis, or sepsis, but the autopsy report indicated that Vlada may have been poisoned during her 3-month trip to China. After her body was returned to Russia, the prelim results showed traces of mysterious biological poison in her system. Russian media quoted law enforcement said she may have been bitten by a deadly poisonous insect. She may have eaten something or poisoned on purpose. What deadly insect in the south could kill a single bite? Is that about that good-looking girl again? Didn't they say it was meningitis last time? How did it turn into poisoning again? Tick bite. Tick origin. Interesting. What was the original name? Chime of the clock tower called? Well, this means something. This is probably what they call finding the light in the darkness. I didn't realize it before. After I arrived in this city, I found shelter at a local bookstore. The shrine's famous viewing point was breathtaking beyond belief. You probably all know the old building on the beach. 2 days ago, I talked to the old man who lives there. He told me that when he was young, the chime of the clock tower had a different melody than it does now. Sadly, he can't remember what it was called. Afraid it proved difficult to find. Maybe it's the same as Westminster Abbey. Wasn't it changed again in the 90s, only to be changed back? Answer to Supercell. They changed in the 80s, only changed it back again. Queen of England visited Mato back then. So why'd they change it back? So, presumably, because of my voiceover, the clock tower is part of the place. The scenic place that Cecile had the vision on. So if we can get Cecile to tell us if she heard the clock tower, and it sounded like the Westminster tune, you know, then she had a vision from the 80s, I guess, is our clue. Anything else? Oh, I can't even go to the pinned topics. Alright, let's get out. Looks like it's time for the news. After a series of boring news, I hear something interesting. Next up is a follow-up to the Sky Pit incident. On the 13th of March at 3 p.m., a road collapsed in downtown Mato. No one was injured, however the road repairs are proving difficult due to the extensive damage. At present, the road section remains restricted to vehicles. All drivers, please plan your route accordingly. In addition, there are rumors that pedestrians witnessed an explosion at the scene. People are reminded to please remain calm and vigilant, and a warning has been issued to criminals not to take advantage of the situation. Hey criminals, I warn you, don't do crime. As of right now, evidence is still being collected and analyzed. The departments in charge hope to soon have more information from the public as to what exactly caused the collapse. It's rare for roads to collapse in big cities. I know the road section for the report is near a very popular riverside viewing platform. Roads in such a highly frequented area are usually kept in much better condition than that. In other words, even small cracks in the ground would usually be an immediate cause for concern, not to mention a big hole that leads to a collapse like that. According to the photographs and the news reports, the Sky Pit... Oh wait, I've been getting it wrong. This is me talking. According to the photographs and the news reports, the Sky Pit is nearly 10 meters in diameter and the hole is unusually deep. It doesn't look like it was caused by a normal explosion. Seems to me like they're just stalling. What could cause the destruction? Not even show up on surveillance footage of the surrounding area? Something about this feels off. I assumed it all happened so suddenly that they didn't have enough time to come up with a better cause. In other words, perhaps the problem isn't finding evidence, but the actual causes simply can't be made public. A group of panicked people came running from the north, right towards the people on the viewing platform. Luckily, security guards were nearby to quickly assess the handle situation, preventing a mass panic. These people were all shaken up and looked like they'd seen a ghost. They were such a small group that they were lost in the crowd. Not many people noticed the uproar, and everyone carried on as usual on the other side of the viewing platform. It's really scary how you can feel isolated and unsafe even when you're out in public surrounded by so many people. Looks like there are some clues. Well, let's see. Time to call an old friend. You there? I need to ask you a favor. I don't have time. The planning department as well as the police department have been insanely hectic lately. People are busy. I don't have time to concentrate on anything else. Never mind. If you've been to any of those places lately, you should have what I'm looking for. Hold on, wait a minute. Is it about that accident? Well, yeah, I've got a bad feeling about this. Even if you're interested in that, things are only going to get more complicated from here on out. How about tomorrow? Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Anyway, it really has something to do with you. I'll stop by sooner rather than later. How do I guess I can't proceed? Done. All I can do now is wait. She can be trusted, but it's likely she'll be grumpy and won't stop complaining. Alright, at least I made some progress. Time to turn off the TV. Alright. Alright. No. Relationship. Recently contacted people and events are logged here. Use left stick to move to desired and press R to zoom in. Alright. Press R. Alright. Okay. I would like... Oh, well, that's being green screened away. It's alright. Left stick. A, R, buttons. Oh, we zoomed in. Oh. Christ, okay, yeah. Press A to view. Press L to enter. This is... Oh, sorry. That was really bad prompting UI. Alright, let's... Zoom into me. Nope, me. I'm 31. I have a master's degree. I'm 0% sane. Wait, what? The current owner of the weird old bookstore. You hardly ever see him leave his apartment. He leads casual life, resulting in irregular opening. This is already strange, because I definitely talked about the owner would fire me if he saw the state of affairs earlier, but apparently I'm the owner? Current owner. Alright, what do we know about Eloise? Third year student. Yep. Unknown if sane. Cecile. Unknown if sane. Yep. Gigantic fire. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, I don't need to read about all the... Oh, what are you? Okay, so I don't... Sorry, I'm really trying to figure out all the mechanics, because there's just a lot. Okay, so I don't really have much to go on right now. Okay. So that was relationships. That's case files. I still don't have clues, right? Oh, the clock tower chime. Yeah, that's right. The illusion... Oh, I finally got clues. Excellent. The illusion Cecile had was far beyond ordinary. Along rising sun properties, many people rushed from the north to the view platform. I could clearly see the expression on their faces. Chime of the clock tower near Mata Beach plays Rising Sun. It was changed several times until the 1990s. Okay. And we still don't have anything to go on yet. Okay. So... Wait. What's this? Oh. Ha! Sorry. I didn't realize that this icon in the bottom left, like... Oh, sorry. Like, all the way... Oh, why am I so bad at this? All the way that way at the far end of the screen is my phone. The, like, ghosts eating each other, I guess. Let's do my thoughts. I should smoke less or give it up. So unhealthy. Cecile poses a difficult problem. Despite her young age, I can agree with her method of trying to prove her assumptions. The question is, where exactly am I going to find any evidence? I'm not sure if the book itself will come in handy. Mulling on it won't change anything. Maybe I should try and gather more information. After all, it's more important to find out the source of the vision than to think about what's happening in it. Alright, so... The internet is just these things. Just the one site. I have like an old iMac or something that goes to one forum. I think that's it for the day, right? Can't play the PlayStation, so end the day. 10:17. Let's hope we didn't miss anything. Right, that's what I thought. Otherwise you wouldn't have come back here specifically. Please forget my earlier question. Since the greatest in the world exists in everything, being able to experience this is absolute bliss. Yesterday, today, across the land and stars, nature embraces ever more greatness. What a state of harmony and beauty. It sounds very positive if you ignore this location. You can't see the other sides, but the shadows beneath them are deep. We do what we were brought up to do. The world is foolish and cautious. She can't see the other eyes. She doesn't know what they're thinking. Even so, somehow she feels there isn't much of a difference between them. Please join me in reciting these words. I don't blame you for seeing red, but there's never any harm in showing respect. It's a big day and the weather's bad. Be especially respectful. Yes, be sure to do that. The girl takes a deep breath and reads the illogical syllable on her hand aloud. There are worse things to worry about than this. I don't understand this bit. Ugh, finally, this side is done. I suddenly felt the need to clean up. Not because it was that messy, but because I needed something to calm my mind a little. She said she'd be here soon, but her work schedule is always pretty busy. Unfortunately, for me, she's always in high demand. Still busy doing useless chores? Speak of the devil. I hear her familiar voice from behind me and feel her placing a hand on my shoulder. This place isn't really yours, so you don't have to be so thorough. See, I think maybe it's like a translation typo in the relationship map calling me the owner earlier. Anyway. Unlike for some people, it isn't really my style to do things half-heartedly. And I look up from the pile of books and get up from amidst the clouds of dust. The air in this place is horrible. You know how unhealthy that is, right? That's why it's even more important that I clean up. It's just gonna get worse otherwise. I'm dooming myself by admitting this aloud. It's one of the biggest drawbacks of leading a sloppy life. Visitor just stands there silent, and then she starts walking around. Meet Scarlett, chief legal consultant at Golden Maxime law firm. Her monthly income is higher than most people's annual salary. In private, she's a tough nut to crack. Still can't go to the bookshelf. What do I think? Don't think she mind the air is a little cloudy. When it comes to investigations, she has better sources and connections than me. Those visions really concern me. Now that Scarlett's investigated the damaged road near the viewing platform, I'm sure she'll discover something. If so, or maybe I can help. Yeah, alright. Looks like nothing's really changed around here. Scarlett takes a look around the room and seems lost for words. As always, she's projecting a strong stoic aura, looking very competent and professional in her suit. That aside, it's obvious that she can still the same old Scarlett. The telltale sign being the simple fact that she hasn't taken out her sunglasses as she walked in. Bookcases in the back area of the ground floor are lit up by a table lamp, so you can actually see your hand when you hold it out in front of your eyes. I just hope she never forgets who her old friends are. Even though you haven't dropped by in 2 months, you should see that there's no real room for any big changes. It's too packed in here. Alright, enough this. What can I do for you? She moves the ashtray aside and sits down. I can feel her looking at me from behind her sunglasses. Although her whole look is somewhat intimidating, Scarlet is quite famous among the lawyers in Mato. There's a reason for that. She's well informed and well connected. Last month, a mysterious collapse occurred on one of the roads. There were rumors of a huge explosion floating around, but there's no actual evidence. Unfortunately, it seems as if the surveillance tapes were damaged. At least that's the official story. A pretty blatant lie, if you ask me. They'd never admit it, but they need someone they can trust to manage and clean up the mess away from their prying eyes. In the last few years, you've been working with several administrative departments. You know your way around the industry and have become somewhat of a household name, meaning you've got connections. I don't think it's wrong of me to assume that such a delicate matter will end up in your hands sooner or later. Scarlet blushes. She knows that I'm right. I lower my voice. So I need first-hand information, and I can't think of anyone else except you. You really do know me quite well. Her voice sounds tired. I silently take the ashtray, put out my cigarette, and wait for a reply. Oops. Didn't mean to log. You're completely right. I do have the video. When we talked yesterday, I already guessed that you'd want it. She rummages through her bag and takes out a hard drive. I reach for it, but can't get my hands on it. Now, no need to hurry. It's not that I don't trust you. You know I do, but you're gonna have to give me a good reason on why you want it. You know there's a cover-up. Something they're trying to hide. I need to find out what it is. I need to find out the truth. That's all. I'm being honest with you. So, there's trouble brewing again? I'm like a magnet for all things strange. There's nothing I can do about that. It's all a little much. First, you're responsible for the fate of the world, then you suddenly disappear. Outright vanish. Give it a couple more years and you'll be friends with the Loch Ness Monster, hidden away in isolation somewhere. I decide to ignore her quirky remark for now. Anyways, that's just one thing. You're talking about the little girl? I think the fact that she came to a bookstore instead of seeing a doctor shows that this is just a child's fantasy gone awry. Wait. Did I tell her about the girl? I don't recall the game setting that up. I feel like we missed something. Maybe I just zoned out. Oh, come on. Would you really describe her condition as normal? Don't tell me that hearing about her experiences left you cold. The way you're willing to look for evidence so stubbornly shows me that you've already chosen to believe her. Am I right? Ever since I saw those things last year, calling myself a normal run-of-the-mill folklore researcher feels like somewhat of an understatement. There's plenty of strange things out there. It's a mysterious world we live in. I'd rather go out and make a fool of myself than ignore something and make a big mistake. Scarlet bows her head deep in thought, unconsciously fiddling around with her collar. Well, at first, I thought... Oh no, it's nothing. I thought of something, but it's got nothing to do with the girl. She looks up and puts the hard drive in her bag again. What's this about? You're not just gonna change your mind, are you? Come on, who do you take me for? Let's go upstairs, though you're welcome to try and use your superpowers to see what's on this drive without a computer. Scarlet takes the key out of my hand and opens the door to the second floor. In fact, she knows her way around, it's no surprise. After all, she's one of the people who helped me move, though helped is irrelevant to the firm in this case. Is it just me, or does this place seem a lot emptier than the last time I was here? Well, it's hard to explain to someone who's baffled by the notion of cleaning up. The computer doesn't have a password. Scarlet sits down at the desk and starts up the computer. At least the software's up to date, so there shouldn't be any problem with the drive. What exactly do you want to take a look at? Well, obviously the moments before and after the collapse. No, I meant that as in where. There's more than one camera. I raised my eyebrows. Oh, then I guess the people working the surveillance equipment all took a break at the same time when it happened here? Start where the two northern roads intersect along the Riverside Highway to the south, all the way to the monitoring points on the edge of the viewing platform. More than a dozen surveillance cameras feeds pops up, one by one. Okay. No, just help me align the videos in real time leading up to the moment of the collapse. Easier said than done. You think that's all done with one simple clip? She grumpily sits in front of the keyboard and drags the videos in the correct order, one by one, all sorted by time code. The old computer, which could easily be considered a relic by now, is starting to run real hot, with the fans working in overdrive. So, judging from this, rumors about having been an explosion are true? You'll find out soon enough. She presses play and a part of the screen suddenly turns white. Turns out things aren't quite so simple and can't be explained by the rumors floating around. What appears on the screen looks more like a lightning bolt crashing down than a fireball. That's... I started looking for additional information in the other videos. The people look so scared. Even if you're the most courageous person on Earth, it's normal to make a run for it in a situation like that. Nobody even thinks about turning back to look for the others. They're frantically running around like a bunch of panicked rabbits. Pay attention to those people there. They're heading south, towards big crowd. I can see several shadows almost being swallowed up by the debris. Two people trip and fall while running away, but the others make it. In the final surveillance scene, several men in police uniforms can be seen, keeping the people away from the crowd. They're carrying something in the room. It looks like in their mouths. It looks like whistles. Stop! This is it. The time code comes to a standstill at last. 14:58:18. Yeah, this has to be it. I turned off the computer to stop the annoying noise of the fan. Nice to hear you found some. Mind sharing it with the class? It's just a guess, a suspicion. Let me get your thoughts on it. Scarlet nods eagerly without hesitation. Even though we've been separated for a long time, we still have a tacit understanding. Even during the most difficult times, our approach has always been the same. And it always works. I take out my notebook to check the information I've gathered so far. Concrete evidence. She couldn't have known in advance. I'm sure the information Garlic gave to me. Press A button to finish. The right information solves the problem. Let's give it a try. Okay. There's the gameplay. Illusion from the north. Nope. Yeah, okay. That's not useful. Wait. $14.58.18. Aha. How do I... B. Cancel. Right, okay. Wait. 3 p.m. sharp. Along with... So at 3 p.m. I swear I said 14:58:18 in the time thing. We did it! Cecile had a very similar vision. Panicked people running the viewing platform, the whistles. She said sunrise was playing somewhere. That's an opportunity to verify the truth. Scarlett's given the situation some thought as well. The nearby clock tower should be right on time to play sunrise. Even if she found out about some other way, the commotion was eventually due to common road damage. That's a statement given by the authorities. A student walking around downtown on a Thursday afternoon. If she was there when it happened, her absence from school would have been noted down in the school's records. You won't seriously make me get the class's attendance records, will you? Will I? But seriously, even if she was lying, I don't think anyone would ever go to such lengths. The road damage was reported, the panic crowd wasn't. There are two separate incidents. The latter was not reported anywhere, yet she still connected the two and knew the details because of her dream. There are only two possibilities why Cecile made that connection. She's aware of the two events, somehow even the unreported one is actively concocting a dream that is realistic. Or she really just happened to know exactly what was going on because of the dream. And even if gossip is being spread about the accident, there's always some time after it happens before it ends up on the news. Take the people who ran away about 2 minutes to get to the viewing platform, and they were quickly stopped by the security guards. It's not a busy street, there's not a lot of commuting going on there during the window of time, so it didn't even attract that much attention. Nobody's really talking about it, even the few people that were there. It's hard to find anything more than small snippets of what happened. Cecile couldn't have known about it from any of the news channels. Only someone who was present could make up such a lie, and there's no way for her to have been there. Process of elimination. Now you know what I mean. We could both use some fresh air. I step outside to have a break. You can smoke inside, but as you know, it's unhealthy. Oh, I'm getting my voice is all confuzzled. You quit smoking half a year ago. I'm just trying to be a gentleman here. Scarlet chuckles and sits with a smirk on her face. I can't even imagine how Dan and Nico would have reacted if they heard you said that. Just trying to show that I'm a multifaceted man. I scratch my head. Scarlet seems uncomfortable on the sofa. She walks toward the window, stretches a bit, then slowly makes her way towards the door. Actually... Yeah, by the way, Scarlet, your help means a lot to me. I wish I could repay you somehow. Good God, you're really hell-bent on this, aren't you? She lets out a defeated sigh. This road that collapsed, or rather exploded. There are many people on that investigation team. I'm not in charge of it. But I always had a feeling that something was off. I don't know why. I see what she means. The evidence in the security surveillance material basically breaks the laws of physics. The only thing that was left was a deep hole. It makes no sense. No victims, no rubble, no burned debris. Seeing all those people running makes it easy to assume there'd be solid evidence, but there's no proof that anything happened. Scarlet could easily pretend not to have noticed anything, keep looking the other way, continue to collect money from several government agencies intent on keeping a lid on things. But I know her too well. Turning a blind eye isn't her style. And that's why she's my friend. When it comes to tracking trouble, we're probably even on the scale. I'm like you, even in that regard. I'd rather do anything than I can to uncover the truth than look away. That'd be a mistake, and then I'd regret it for the rest of my life. That's the wrong voice, Aadil. Oof. Scarlet stares at me with a serious look on her face. There's no doubt in her eyes. Alright, so what do you want me to do? Intelligence analysis isn't my strong suit, so if there's any new clues later, you'll have to piece them together. No problem. That's my plan anyway. Alright then, we'll have to sort this whole mess out somehow. There's no way we can drop this case now. Cecile deserves an answer. Be patient like the Buddha, something I was often told. Not exactly me, is it? Well, we'll just have to wait for my face to become a little chubbier and I'll take on the role of Buddha then. Deal? She smiles, but it's bitter. She knows how much is at stake here. I know you're just trying to calm the atmosphere. I'm sorry, I just don't know how to respond to this right now. It's a bit much to take in. You're right. I'll make sure Cecile explains everything in more detail soon. She probably left some things out for fear of not being taken seriously. Now she doesn't have to worry about that anymore. Cecile didn't go much into detail about the origin of the dream. We don't have time to keep things hidden any longer. Lies can be made up out of thin air, but this is connected to something real, something tangible. Even if it really was just a regular accident, I need to know. I need clarity. So, Phoenix High School is the name of the place, right? And there are rumors floating around about some really bad things going on among the students. A real twisted sense of community. I'd like to get to the bottom of it. That little girl named Cecile's being bullied? Yeah, the others in her art club are completely out of line. So far it seems as if it's only bad words and some malicious pranks, but that's already bad enough. Who knows with these kids? Scarlet frowns. My words must have caused her concern. That's terrible. Are all kids these days so cruel? Bad behavior can have a number of reasons. Some of those kids probably just can't help it. I bet some of them just do it to fit in with the group because they're afraid of becoming targets themselves. I understand that. So, let's do some digging, shall we? If possible, I'd really appreciate if you didn't get us into any legal trouble. Oh, come on, I'm a professional, and you know it. Scarlet picks up her leather bag and steps out of the door. The sun shines down on her. She carefully readjusts her sunglasses. like a model looking for the perfect shot. I guess nothing's really changed. Glad you're helping me with this. Feels good. Like a reunion of sorts. Take care of yourself. You too. Think about yourself every once in a while. Don't let the hard work get to you. Scarlet waves her hands as she walks away, not even turning her head. With Scarlet's help on this case, we should have new results soon. I get a little bit of fresh air, then head back into the store. Call it here. This has been Hermitage Strange Case Files. We didn't quite get through a whole case. And there are more questions than answers, which is a nice thing with this type of thing, this game. Obviously, I think you could go further if you weren't reading this whole thing aloud on mute or not. But yeah, this has been fun. If you enjoyed this, like, follow, subscribe on the various platforms you're seeing this on, and check us out at outoflives.net for articles, VODs, podcasts, all kinds of gaming, pop culture-y stuff. You can also catch our YouTube channel, Out of Lives Network. Tweet us at outoflivesnet, or catch us here on Twitch, twitch.tv/outoflivesnetwork. I've been Aadil. You can find me at the Omniarch on all of the things, and I will catch you next time. Bye.
www.outoflives.net